Welcome to another episode of the Everyday Game Changers podcast. I'm your host, Barion McQueen, and we speaking with people who are changing the game every day in business, music, community, whatever. And I got a guest that she got a star-studded list of accolades of people she's worked with, from Meek Mills, Tory Lanez, Nipsey Hussle, Wale, French, Jeezy. The list goes on. I'm gonna let her really dive in to her list of credits. Miss Sarah J, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. I think for me, I really kind of wanna. Your story is. I haven't really heard kind of in detail how you really got into it, but I really want you to give us a little background on how you even narrowed in on this niche, because I think this is super important that you really focus on the producers, not really specifically. You build the relationships with the artists, of course, but really helping producers kind of getting their foot in the game. So were you at A&R at a label first, or you just kind of just got into it?
Yeah, no, I went the whole independent route the whole entire time. Honestly, I really started with MySpace. You remember MySpace back in the day?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I really just networked crazy on there. I would just cold call people, reach out to different A&Rs and different managers, artists. I'd hit them in the DM, and ask them where I could send beats. Now, at that time, we weren't really using MP3 so much. So I would actually just send links, or I would FedEx beat CDs to the labels. So I spent a bunch of money, just FedExing stuff overnight to these labels: Shady Records, Columbia, Bad Boy, all these record labels from back in the day. Just trying to get these beats heard. I would find producers on MySpace, build relationships with them as well as the artists too. But once I started sending, beat CDs to these labels, I felt like sometimes I would get the runaround. So that's when I started traveling back and forth from New York to LA, sitting down with these A&Rs, all the older A&Rs from back in the day, the Lenny S's and Riggs and people like that. Building the relationships to the point where I was setting up music conferences and showcases and panels when that was really big back in the day. So, kind of putting bread in their pocket, them putting bread in my pocket, building the relationship so I didn't have to chase so much. I was just getting placements that way. I would get a bunch of placements on mixtapes like old Jim Jones, G Unit, Fab.
The good old days.
Yeah, lot of mixtape stuff that would go to Dat Piff and live mixtapes when that shit was popping. And then it just turned into album work over the years. People would hear my name, that I had beats and all that kind of shit. I started managing more producers, and shit just really picked up.
So so let me ask you, did you never want to be an A&R?
I didn't aspire to be one. No, I
Okay.
didn't even know what the term A&R meant. It stands for artist
Okay.
repertoire. I didn't
Right.
even know.
I asked that because I'm like, if I'm a record label, I would just get Sarah J on my label and then I'm good. Like, she got an ear for the music. But I guess you can control who you work with now, going
Yeah.
your route. Anyway, so what's the I say in another podcast where you reference like one of your first records, what's your biggest record you've ever placed as far as like numbers?
Probably anything with Tory. I've been on all his albums. The Jim Jones Bergang Money record, Kill Jill with that was Big Boy and Jeezy and Killer Mike's record that plays all the time when I'm in the car. G Unit, for 50 and them I did Changes, their single.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a Meek record coming out with her. I have a lot of stuff coming out. I have a new record coming out with Young Thug's brother featuring Black Youngster. So I'm working on a gang of shit right now.
So this is what so I'm probably really gonna show my age, right? So like when it came to like resources for producers. So I'm originally from Delaware, before I came to Miami. And
Mhm.
I used to go to the I Standard showcases in Philly. That
Okay.
was that was like the if you was a producer, you go to this I Standard showcase. I mean, I've met now that I know these artists now, but like Cardiac, like a lot of these guys, I met them through the I
You're
Standard.
probably know Charlie Heath then.
Yeah, Charlie, he used to work at the Foot Locker
Okay, okay.
in
See,
Christiana Mall before I knew who Charlie Heat was,
right.
right? um
Facts.
before the Kanye stuff. So it's, I mean, from Delaware, we got a really, Ben Billions is from Delaware. Sap, the beat man, is from Delaware.
Mhm.
Um Star, she's more songwriter though. And then Derek Milano from Delaware. So it's a lot of people popped off after I left there, or was already established.
You got Bully and Jalil from Chester
Yeah,
up the
yeah.
way.
Beat Bully. I used to see him running around out here in Miami. I don't know if he's still out here, but I know Jalil and Sap and them are related somehow. So I always seen those guys together. But that's such a small world.
I know.
Um, so like I'm gonna ask a couple of the questions some people asked me to ask you, especially with regards to one of these questions was about how do you go about getting records placed in music videos and in movies? Like, is that just somebody like you, pitching as far as syncing things, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that would be considered sync licensing. So anything sample free, all original, royalty free. Obviously, a lot of these producers that submit for that would get their stuff from Splice or TrackLib or whatever. And it has to be sample free though, because these companies do not play. They will actually run your music through this decoder thing to see is it for real sample free. So if you guys have stuff in that lane, you can always send it to me and just put in the header, sync licensing, movie stuff, and then I will spread it around. I have placed stuff on ESPN, First Take, Love and Hip Hop, different shows. But like I said, you just want to have it sample free. I always tell producers, make sure that you go to these BMI and ASCAP expos. This is where you're going to bump into the music supervisors if you're interested in building the relationships in person with these guys.
So I'm glad you brought up Splice, right? I seen a post that you put about sampling and loops is cheating. So talk to me a little bit, 'cause I know Splice is huge now, right? So you don't really
Yeah.
have to do anything. You get you a nice loop and you throw some drums to it. What's that process like if you're trying to place a record that has these like third party samples or loops? How does that work?
I love samples. I mean, 90% of what you hear on the radio has a sample in it. I mean, some people just replay their stuff, but if it's something that's clearable, it's gonna get clear. But if it's something like the OGs, like Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Sade, Isley Brothers, it's gonna be really hard to clear. So I just recommend don't send me any, samples with those, grades.
Big time stuff that's never gonna get, yeah.
But I hear a lot of stuff from like SoundCloud artists that's really easy to clear. Just
Okay.
yeah.
So the Splice stuff, that's royalty free that you can just
Yeah,
use, right? So you don't have to worry about clearing when you use those samples.
absolutely. Yeah.
There you go. That was a question I had. So that you already answered that. So um what stage in like a producer's career do you think they actually like need management? Like I've run across artists, producers, everybody feels like they need a manager. And I'm like, are you giving a manager something to manage, right? So at what point do you think a producer should be talking about management?
I think a producer needs management when you have so much going on, when your phone is ringing off the hook, when you have placements and you can no longer manage yourself. If you don't have any of that and you're just starting in the game, like I just think that you should just get your feet wet on your own, try to learn as much as you can as possible, research everything in the game so that nobody takes advantage of you. You know what I mean? You can also book a consultation with me too. But basically, just get your feet wet. Just learn everything that you need to learn about the production game, the business side. Start reaching out to different attorneys, like entertainment attorneys. So when you need that you have that cover. But I don't really think that you manager in order to get placements, or you need a manager to get you in these doors. Like you can book your own studio sessions, you can build your own relationships, you can learn about contracts. Like you don't really need a manager, like I said, until you have so much going on.
Got you. So like when we talk about getting records placed, right? Clearly you got like I guess you got to really kind of have your ear to the streets because you got to know who's the next artist to kind of pop to probably pitch, right? So that's forever changing. How do you find new talent?
That's a good question. I'm in the car a lot, so I'm always listening to XM radio where they're always playing new shit. I like XM better than Clear Channel because I get to hear all the new artists, you know. So if there's somebody I haven't heard of before and I like them, I'll reach out to them via DM, or this business is so small, I just end up knowing one of their managers or
Right.
engineers and getting them beats. But then also like my colleagues, other A&R friends or other friends, producers, friends, they'll hit me and say, have you heard of this person? Have you heard? So the more I hear, if I hear somebody like 3-4 times, I'm going to research who that person is so I can get them beats. So I'm always doing my research on artists.
That's dope. So I wanted to like ask you, I know like the process for like getting records to artists has really changed, and then more like I remember to a point where artists didn't even want beats. Like if you sent something, it had to have a hook already on it. You had to have
Yeah.
a reference. Like they want records. Do you see a shift in that? Is it still like that? Like, yo, send me the reference record rather than just the beats. I don't want to listen to the beat. I want a hit record ready.
Yeah, it really depends who it is. Like Hitmaker, Tory, Meek, a lot of these guys write their own stuff, so they don't want any references. So just kind of working with these people over the years, you kind of know who are the writers and who accept stuff with references. A lot of R&B singers don't write their own stuff, so then I'll send them R&B hooks and full references and things like that. But most people just want instrumentals, so I'm just sifting through tracks all day, just kind of moving beats around to who I hear on what, you know.
Do you put like so say I'm sure you get inundated with records and beats to listen to, like do you just as you just listen and you like, oh man, I think I know somebody who will sound good on that. I just put that aside and then just create a little pack for, is that how you do it?
Yeah, exactly. Like when I'm shopping beats, like I'm literally shopping stuff to like 30, 40 different dudes at one time. You know, whoever I hear on whatever, like I'm just shooting it out there. You know, I do not bother these artists. Did you listen yet? Did you listen? Because they don't like buggy people. Like I don't like that either when someone hits me constantly, like, did you listen? You know, you need to just like create, dump the music off, plant your seeds, and just keep it moving, you know?
I think that's the hardest thing for producers is like it's like you giving your babies out, right? And you like, does anybody want my baby? Like, or do I go to another artist? And because that's always the waiting game. Like I've had records placed.
Mm-hmm.
I think like my first record was and this probably was maybe mixtapes. This was a Cassidy
Okay.
record. And then like years later, I did a record for Ace Hood, but it was just like I did the record like 2-3 years before it even I'm like, to me, the sound is outdated. So I'm just like,
Right.
I'm way better. Why would he finally do something to that record now? But I think that's the toughest thing for the producers, like the waiting game. It's just
Oh,
like,
it
especially
is.
after you hear it. Like if the artist call you, be like, yo, I did something to that beat and you heard it, and you're like, oh my God, when you gonna put it out? When are you gonna put it?
Really want to hear it. I know. And that's the thing. It's like when you create, it's like you want feedback on your records, whether it's from the artist or the manager, whoever. And I always tell these producers, like, these artists don't give me feedback. Like, they're just like, hey, sir, I'm going to use this beat. I laid something to it last night. Who's the producer? And then I go find the producer. But they don't say, like, I like this, take this out, tweak this, beef up the drums. Like, they don't really do that, you know?
What so I see a lot of things where a lot of producers and engineers aren't getting credit on these projects. Like whose job is that to make sure when they in these sessions or these split sheets are happening, who's supposed to handle making sure that these producers are properly credited?
That's a really good question. And that's been, I feel like a problem over the years is producers not getting their just due and their proper credit, because as an up and coming producer, your credit is everything. You know, you need this for exposure. You need this to just put on your discography and carry the name out. I think as a collective, it's everybody's job to be professional and turn in split sheets to make sure that you have the producer spelling of their name correct. Make sure that everybody's credited, the producer, the engineer, everybody that worked on the record, you know. And yeah, that comes from communication with the producer, with the management, with the artist team, with the publicist. I mean, everybody should be held accountable, honestly, for that, because there's been instances where somebody just slaps my name on a record and says produced by Sarah J. It's like, no, I don't want to be a producer. I don't want to take your credit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just not right. And that comes from lack of communication, you know. We really need to communicate better with everyone.
So how does that work? Like with you because you pretty much facilitating the whole process, right? You got the relationship with the artist and you got the relationship with the producer. So what does that put your title kind of is more like an executive producer or like how are you credited for your work?
Yeah, I just say producer management, A&R over the years. I
Okay.
help out administrative paperwork when I help a producer get a placement so that they learn how to do the split sheets and the producer deck and the agreement and all that stuff that comes with it. And then they know how to do it for future placements if I'm not involved, with a record.
Got you. How important would you say like producers actually going to like networking events and really putting their face out there? Because I know a lot of people is just they just in the house just knocking out beats, right? But they usually are, I wouldn't say they socially awkward, right? They
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
lot of producers I run across is socially awkward. They don't, but nowadays you pretty much got to be the brand. Like these big producers are like the brand, the Murder Beats, the Metro Boomins, the
Right.
Mike Wills.
Right.
So what advice could you give to those people about the networking aspect of being a producer?
Yeah, and I like to call them bedroom producers because they never leave their crib. They're probably in their drawers and their slippers, just
Yeah.
create. Nobody ever sees their face. And I have actually set up interviews for some producers sometimes, and they're so shy. They're like, yo, Sarah, I can't get on camera. I don't know how to do this. I'm an introvert, just like you said. And it's like they don't want to show their face, but we live in an Instagram world where everybody wants to see what you're doing visually. They want to see who's making these beats and everything. So if you're not marketing yourself as an artist, you're really behind the times because nobody will ever know that you exist. You're not on the radar, you know what I mean? So that's why I tell producers, like, you need to do vlogs, you need to do photo shoots, you need to get to these iStandard and Illmind different events. Bricks Academy, he's really doing his thing right now with producers, doing different networking events with him and just getting your name out there, hitting all these studios up, traveling. I mean, it's just not going to happen just staying in the crib Gmailing all day, like, honestly.
So like, let me see if I'm gonna see if I can get to one more of these questions. I think we pretty much got to the ones that I'm like, because it's hundreds of them, but I'm like, these are some really good ones. What are you currently working on right now?
Right now I'm working on a girl group on Capitol Records. They didn't come out yet, but they're similar to a City Girl. So I need twerk
Okay.
joints. Yeah, I placed
Ah,
4 records with them, but they need a few more twerk joints. So if anybody out there watching this, make sure that you hit me up on my IG SJ Manager or my Twitter SJ Manager, and my beat email is always in my bio.
okay. So this is so like I feel like Sarah J. I feel like BeatStars should have been yeah, baby. Like, you familiar with that platform, BeatStars?
I used to work for PMP back in the day. You remember
Okay.
PMP?
Yeah.
I used to work with them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I think I see these emails fly back and forth, like, oh, we're looking for placements for this, and I'm like, this is like Sarah J, the actual platform, Sarah J. Like, I feel like that's what BeatStars is, right? Um, so you working with? So what do you have planned in the next, let's say 5 years from now? What's Sarah J up to?
Well, I'm working on getting, more producers signed to administration deals. So that's what I also help producers do. If you have relevant placements, I can help you get an admin deal. I'm just currently still doing placements with, everybody working, different artists working, but I don't know where the future of the music is going to go exactly. If it's going to go the TikTok route, if it's going to go more videos, more streaming, or go back to anything older. So I'm just trying to stay current with the times. Um, and
What would you say? So like you got a good ear for music. What's some things you looking for, like when you get beats from producers? Is it stuff that's melodic? Is it you shy away from trap? Is it real hip hop? Is it or like what would you say is this? I don't want to say safe formula, but what's like your formula that you like? Oh, I know that's a hit. Like when I hear a hit make a record, he's flipping these 90 samples and
right.
heavy 808. What would you say is a good formula or that you hear when you listen to the beats?
Definitely melodies are key. Drums, anything hard. I love 808 shit, you guys. Like I love trap and 808 stuff. It's really my favorite stuff. This honestly, I'm like, well, how do people have weak drums in 2021? There's so many drum kits out here. So I really think melodies and drums are key. Transitions. I love boom bap stuff. I love sample stuff. I like drill stuff. I'm getting a lot of Afro stuff in. I'm getting pop
Yeah.
records in. Honestly, I get that question a lot, but it's like I just love to hear a variety because I know right when I hear something like who I want to send it to. So
Because I wanted to. The reason I asked that is because it's like I know some producers try to do a little bit of every genre, right? They got a little pop catalog, they got an R&B folder, they got a trap folder. Do you think they should lock in on one that they are the best at and not try to navigate, or just should they be just doing a little bit of everything?
well, I've met some producers that are really good at everything, but then I've met some producers where their R&B is really good, but then their hip hop shit is weak or vice versa. So it kind of depends like how musically inclined you are. Can you play? Are you able to play the keys? Are you able to really flip samples? How seasoned you are as a producer. And that's kind of how I feel like the different genres should go if, you should master one and not the other, and be all across the board.
That's dope. So, like, let me ask you before we wrap up, what's one piece of advice you could give for any upcoming producer right now in this time where they should put their focus?
Definitely put your focus on mastering your craft and just really developing yourself, not trying to sound like anybody, just developing yourself and just practice patience. A lot of producers get in the game and they start producing. And if they don't see any, results in the first couple months and they just burn out. So just keep going. Just honestly, consistency. Consistency is just really important in this game because the more you're consistent and the more you create and shop the records and you're patient, you build your network, like you're gonna see some results.
Dope. That's dope. Do you think a producer should find an artist to kind of grow with?
Yeah, I
Like
do.
I look at a like being from up north, like Jalil and Meek had a really good relationship when Meek was first starting out with getting
Yeah.
placement. So I see a lot of artists attached to a producer's attached to an artist, and they kind of grow at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a great way because just to create that chemistry in a project, like A. Marie and Rich Harrison, or like you said, just a rapper with their producer, and you just create this sound and a niche, and you never know, like somebody checking out the artist and he gets a deal, and now he wants to bring you along because you were the top, producer, executive producer on that project, and now you have new placements and a new pub deal.
Dope. So I'm gonna ask you one last question. What's your dream versus battle for producers you would like to see? We've seen the Swiss Beats and Timberland battle. Who else would you like to see head to head? Producers.
Oh, producer battle.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay, let's see. That's a good question. What about like it's gonna sound wild, but maybe like Southside and Alchemist.
That's a different age gap, but that'll be dope though.
Yeah, they both have like hella hits. I don't
Crazy.
know.
That's the Southside and Alchemist. Wow. I used to love Alchemist's samples, man.
Yeah.
That's dope. Nah, that's good because I don't see any more producers. Like I seen the Scott Storch and Manny Fresh. That was like that's not even fair. Like they should have put Scott Storch against somebody like. And I love Manny Fresh, but he don't have no hit. Scott Storch is on a whole nother level. Like he
Yeah.
got to go against like a Pharrell or something more when you do Scott Storch. But I haven't seen any producer battles, and I'm like, there's a lot of great. Like I want to see Jermaine Dupri in a
Yeah,
versus battle with
that'd
I
be
don't
dope.
I don't even know who he would go up against. But all right, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you, Sarah J. I appreciate your time, man. This is super dope. I'm glad we're able to get you on the Everyday Game Changers. I am your host, Darren McQueen. Definitely subscribe. Check us out on Spotify, iTunes, all your digital platforms, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.